It's looking deep down the left side. Mendeville into the end zone. Touchdown! Down the sideline, still 40, 20 to the house.
And the players streaming from the sideline to celebrate with 17 seconds left.
Welcome in, everybody, to BVarsity Live for Thursday, November the 3rd. I'm Zach Ewing, and that's Trevor Horn over there, and we are knee-deep into fall sports playoffs and championships here, and we have tennis individual championships this weekend, cross-country county championships, tennis team championships next Tuesday, volleyball championships next weekend, and
we had
football playoffs coming up
Plus,
Saturday.
we had golf section championships on Monday. Lexi Keene, the Central Section champion, again.
Congratulations to Lexi, yeah, friend of the show, and two-time section champion now, and a three-time area champion, and she's going on to bigger and better things at Northern Arizona next year to play some golf.
Well, she's also, her and 5 other local golfers are headed off to the SoCal Regionals, which will be next Thursday down in San Bernardino. So still some golf life left this season. Like you said, the volleyball, the quarterfinals in volleyball tonight, we can go through that really quickly if you want. You're going to be out at the D1 Central Section rematch tonight in the quarterfinals. Number 1 Liberty hosting number 8 Clovis East.
And, of course, Liberty was number 1 last year.
Yep.
When they lost to Clovis East in the championship match. Clovis East was number 2 at that time and the track champion this year. Obviously not as experienced, having a down year, but still it's going to be, I would think, kind of a mental block for Liberty and a lot of relief if they can get by this round and get into the semifinals where they would face either
Buchanan or Clovis.
Buchanan or Clovis, the 4 and 5, and Clovis has been ranked number 1 all year long, so that's as a 4 seed.
But then went 6 and 4 in the track.
Yeah, as a 4 seed, that's a very, very difficult matchup for Liberty. If both teams get there, they've got to get there tonight, and then those semifinals would be next Tuesday on election night.
Yep, and then on the other side of the D1 bracket, Frontier, who defeated Bullard in 3 sets. They're at number 3 Central, and then Stockdale, who defeated Clovis North in 3 sets. They will play track champion and 2 seed Clovis West in Division 2. I'll be at the actually, no, I apologize. We have Garces hosting Lemoore, the Rams, the 1 seed in D2. That's the only Kern County team in Division 2. And then in match that I'll be at tonight, number 1 BCHS, who, Zach, get this. How many? Okay, they're 31.
And this is in D3, correct?
This is D3 now. How many? They're 31-1. The Eagles are. How many sets have they dropped this year?
Let's see.
And
so they lost
32 matches.
They lost the one they lost was a best of 3, right?
Yeah,
so they only
Clovis
lost 2
tournament.
sets there, and I'm going to say they lost.
Remember,
3
they
other
played
sets. They did lose 2 to CVC. That's right. So that's 4, and I'll say they lost 3 other sets on top
But you got to
of that.
remember, they did play in the Clovis tournament.
So
earlier
they
in the
lost
year.
7 sets.
14, but still, I mean, 14 sets over the year. That's pretty incredible.
You were setting me up for like this incredible stat. It's still,
Yeah, but
it's
I still think
good,
14 is incredible.
It's
when
still
you,
pretty
when,
good.
when you talk about, you've got teams in the Southwest Yosemite League that have probably lost, that are 8-1. Liberty has lost 14 sets on just those 10 matches alone.
Right.
9
Well, and Bakersfield Christian did not lose a set in the SSL, so you wipe those games out right away.
Yep.
But a difficult non-league schedule. Now we see if that pays off.
Yep.
With yet another section title for.
Yep. So
BCHS.
they host Reedley tonight in the quarterfinals, and then on the opposite side of the bracket, number 7 Arvin, who defeated North in 4 sets. They'll be at number 2 Tulare Mission Oak in Division 4. We have 1 team left there, and it's Taft, and they will host Strathmore. Taft defeated Orosi 3-0 in the first round. And then we've actually got some intrigue in Division 5. Fraser Mountain, 2-time defending D5 champs. They will host Wonderful Prep. Now, why do I put so much emphasis on host, Zach?
Because you just love the story. The High Desert League teams are getting to host for the first time. Yeah.
And they're not the only one. On the opposite side of the bracket, Cal City will host Carruthers in the 3-6 matchup. So we've got 2 High Desert League volleyball teams hosting for the first time ever in the 3 years since they came in.
It's about time.
Yeah,
I think it's one of those things where I understand why the Central Section put this 3-year moratorium on hosting playoff games for High Desert League teams, but it's not really fair to those schools either. And they
because they're not going to do it to the Central Coast teams that come in 2 years.
And again, that makes sense. They're getting more value out of those teams, and and they're not as far away as a Bishop or a Cal City or a Desert. But it is interesting. Of course, Desert came in this year, so they don't even have to mess with that. They would get the host in any scenario. So it is interesting that was sort of the agreement. And those schools agreed to it. They were sort of forced to agree to it or stay in the Southern section. But now it's all over and it's in the past, and they're sort of full-fledged members of the Central section. So
yeah, so
I think we can move on.
I think the big intrigue tonight is we have in Kern County 4 of the 5 number 1 seeds all hosting tonight. Whether or not those teams can get by, it'll be interesting. When you look at, like I said, I mean, we've got 3 teams left in D1, 1 in D2, and that's Garces, 2, 1 being in D3, being BCHS, and then Taft, the 3 seed and 4, and then the 3 teams in D5. I mean, it got whittled down in the first round on Tuesday. And now can those 1 seeds continue this? And do we get a scenario again at West Hills College next Saturday where we have 4 teams going for section titles on the one-day all-division site for the championships, which would be kind of neat.
Yeah, on Saturday, starting in the morning with D5, going to the evening in D1. Of the 4 number 1 seeds, Liberty, Garces, Bakersfield Christian, and Fraser Mountain, who faces the biggest upset threat tonight, you think?
Tonight?
Mm-hmm. Now, you just got done saying they would have to make it through tonight. So who do you think is at risk?
Well, I always think that anytime an SWL team and a track team get together, there's always a chance for that, especially with the team with the pedigree that Clovis East has after winning the D1 title last year. But Liberty is such a strong team this year. I think that's going to be a really good test. Whether or not that Lemoore can test Garces tonight, I'm not sure. Garces, obviously, went 5-5 in the SWL. Can they overcome those losses? Obviously, they showed that they could with a quick sweep of Ridgeview in the first round. So maybe the biggest thing for Garces after the SWL slate was getting a first-round match to kind of get that first win back, even though they did beat Stockdale in the final week. But it's tough to kind of go through that D1 slate for 5 weeks and then jump into a D2 bracket without playing any of those teams. So I don't know. I think maybe you would have to go with the Liberty Clovis East game as maybe the most intriguing match that you'll be at tonight.
I think so. I mean, I just think when you look at those other matchups, Garces, Bakersfield Christian, I admittedly don't know a lot about Fraser Mountain, but they have dominated that division the last couple of years, and so you figure, or at least up to the final. So you figure that.
And obviously we're talking about 1-8 or 1-9 matchups.
Yeah, I mean, I just think Garces and Bakersfield Christian are on a higher level than Lemoore and especially Reedley, and so Clovis East, if they played at their best, they could certainly give Liberty a challenge. So I'm with you on that.
Well, I'm more interested in the 2 other D1 games on the road for Frontier and Stockdale. Stockdale looked really good against Clovis North. They handled that match the whole way, and I know that Clovis North went 1-9 in the track, but I don't know if maybe
did you just swallow a bug?
No.
What was that?
I don't know, dry mouth. Who cares?
I
Stop analyzing me.
I was worried about you.
Kind of like my sneeze last week.
That was terrifying.
That was really terrifying.
Yeah, we lost you for a minute.
Yeah, and then Frontier at Central.
Frontier beat Central earlier this year, right?
So here we are in the 3-6 matchup. Can Frontier do that? And if they win, then they got to go back on the road again, most likely, unless Stockdale. I mean, how cool would that be if 2 teams and then you've got 3 of the 4 left in SWL? When we talk about the track always being the top of, volleyball and sometimes even football, we talk about it within D1 in the Central section. Maybe we get 3 of the 4 teams. Who knows?
Seems unlikely, but it was that way last year, I believe. 3 of the 4 semifinalists were.
Yeah, Liberty beat Frontier.
Yeah, were Kern County teams, and then the one track team that
Clovis
was Clovis East ended up winning the title. In fact, I think maybe more likely, just looking at seeds, is that you might have 3 track teams out of the Final 4, but the one SWIL team, Liberty, would be favored to win it. Now, again, Frontier and Stockdale certainly have chances tonight.
Right. And then the other thing, too, is that we always talk about, can BCHS find that kind of competitiveness to beat a team that is of equal, because, I mean, I don't want to talk badly about the other SSL teams. They're just not on the same level as BCHS has been over the last 4 years.
Frankly, I'm not sure BCHS will even run into a team that's its level until at least the D3 final, if not the state playoffs.
But I'm telling you, having that match last week at home in 5 sets to CVCC, or CVC.
You're thinking CBCC,
where my wife works, yeah. But getting that match last week, I think, really kind of was the perfect timing for the Eagles. I'll see them. I'll talk to them about that, and so that'll be
just a really intelligent scheduling play. Of course, it had to work with CVC's schedule too, but I think you're right. I think it really works in BCHS favor. So, what else? We have tennis, and it's going to be. I like this matchup in Division II. Bakersfield High and Bakersfield Christian both win in semifinals yesterday, and so they will meet for the D2 final at BCHS on Tuesday. Busy day Tuesday, but and we're not even talking about the election, which is obviously for a newspaper a big. But you talking about Bakersfield, which has an enrollment of nearly 3,000 kids, and Bakersfield Christian, which is down around 500. You think David and Goliath, right? But in this instance, the Goliath is the 500 student Bakersfield Christian, which has won 11 straight section tennis titles in girls tennis. Not all of them in Division II. In fact, only one of them I think is in Division II. The rest are in 3, 4, and 5. But still, a team, even when they were down in D4 and D5, they were good enough to be winning D2 titles.
Well,
most
think
of those
about
years.
it. Liberty Roach, who's the younger sister of Delaney Roach, who is also the 7th seed in the D1 or in the central section bracket. Yeah, 8th seed. Dude, she was probably, 3 when this whole thing started?
That's crazy. Yeah, she's 3 years old when they started winning section titles. Now she's a freshman and their number 2 player. So in this matchup, you have, again, 3,000 student BHS over here, 500 student Bakersfield Christian over here, but it's Bakersfield Christian that is the Goliath here and the favorite and expected to win. And BHS, it's funny to call BHS an underdog in anything, but they are the underdog on Tuesday. It'll be fun to see what they can do. Now, those two teams, I believe, met in the semifinals last year.
Yeah, and those are the only 2 teams left in Kern County in the 5 divisions.
Wasco did make the D4 final, but that was played yesterday, and they lost to Corcoran.
Yep, and then Garces lost to Clovis North, and then North lost in the D3 semifinals.
As did
well.
West, yeah. And Garces actually would have had a chance to host the D1 final because number 1 seed Clovis West lost to Buchanan.
But they do get to host this weekend the singles and doubles tournament at Garces this year for the central section. On Friday, the individual times are 9 a.m. and 10:30, 12 and 1, and the gates will open at 8 a.m. So get there early if you want to.
And then we expect the finals on Saturday to be around noon. Is that right?
It
1
depends
o'clock?
on SATs, I
okay,
believe.
there's SATs on Saturday.
So there's always the issue of when the girls have to take them, depending on who gets there.
Right.
So right now, Janie Ellis, the Central Section defending champ, is the number 1 seed. She's out of Clovis West. The 2nd seed is Madison Sweeney from Frontier, and the top seed in the doubles is Anastasia and Alexia Drulius, the
Whom we
sisters.
had on the show.
Yep, we had on the show 2 weeks ago. They're the number 1 seed. They're undefeated as a doubles team this year. And how neat would it be for Anastasia to have a Central Section title, which she got as a freshman, right? No, I'm sorry. She would have a individual section title as a freshman,
right,
and then go for
the doubles
title
so
with her
singles
sister.
and a doubles title. And then lastly, before we go to break and get to the big football games this weekend, cross-country county championships are
Saturday.
And I think the major storyline here comes on the girls' side where we get to see Dee Dee Salcido run against Cagney Duncan.
If they're in it, I still got to double-check to see if they're in it. There was talk of them not being in it because there's another big race up in the Bay Area. So.
That would be interesting. I don't believe McFarland's ever issued the county championships. Now, they do try to go to big meets, but it seems like they always make it back for the county. So that's a major storyline either way, if they run or if they don't. And then, of course, if McFarland boys run, a chance to see how dominant they can be against the rest of the county. So that is the end of the first segment here on BVarsity Live. When we come back, we're going to focus in on BHS against Liberty football tomorrow night at West High, deciding the Southwest Yosemite League title. We've got the Drillers in the house next, and then we'll get to Liberty after that. We'll be right back here on BVarsity Live.